Link Jarrett. Link, thanks for jumping on with us.
Sheets, glad I could do it.
Well,
Always fun to hang out with you.
Yes, it is.
Especially in these chairs.
That's what we're talking.
Good chairs.
These are chairs that, if they were in my living room, I'm not even sure. I may skip a convention. I may just sit in the chair in my house.
Couldn't blame you. Couldn't blame you. These things are great.
Let's dive into the clinic because I'm bouncing around the hotel. Can't really get in to see some of this stuff, but all I get is feedback, and obviously tremendous feedback from your clinic. Did you feel like it went well? What was your mission up there on stage, and how'd you get through the content?
Well, your staff, to set that up and help us navigate what that was going to be like, was very helpful.
Awesome.
People ask, what do you do? What do you guys do offensively that seems to allow you to have success?
Tremendous success.
Through the last 10 or 15 years.
Right.
So I just wanted to be sure that I authentically gave the guys what we try to do.
No doubt.
And it's hard. You're going through those slides, and I think I had 15 slides. At times I felt like I could have spent 35 minutes on the 7th slide and then the 9th slide. But I wanted to give the big picture look at what we try to do every day, and I wanted the guys to be able to walk out of there with something that they could take and try to do in their first practice this spring.
Gosh, great feedback so far from your end?
It's really been awesome.
Yeah.
And you hope that you deliver it well, and you hope you manage the time properly on the things that you wanted to spend time on. And I felt like it went well. There's always things you wish you had said when you reflect on how you presented it. Got great questions in the question and answer session. I know Corbs was after me, so I'm like, man, I wish I could listen to Corbs. So I stuck around and listened to him in the Q&A.
Sure.
But I got some great questions, and I just hope that I can do for some of the guys at this clinic what previous coaches have done for me as I've sat in this venue in Nashville and Orlando and San Diego over the last 15 years of my career.
Golly. Well, I hate the fact that we both had to fly 500 miles. We could literally just walk down the street and have this conversation, but we're here in Dallas, and I want to go into quickly just the ABCA and what it's meant to you about your coaching career, because you've been involved with us for so long as a loyal member. So I guess, when you think back first conventions and obviously all the ones you've been to since, what's the ABCA mean to you? More than that, what does it mean to you to be part of this coaching fraternity, Link?
It's an unbelievable facet to your evolution as a coach. It really is. And I always talk about Dave Barnett. When I was about to take a high school job and I was helping coach a high school football team, he called me and had a position, and I drove over and took the job. I wanted to be in college.
Yeah.
And he really taught me a lot about what this business was about. I was just out of professional baseball. I had no idea how to take care of a field, how to run a program, how to organize things that needed to be done in the program. And he brought me to Nashville, and it was my first convention. I really had no idea.
What year was this?
This was 1990. It would have been 2000. So I got there in 99, and I guess the convention would have been right there early January of 2000 in Nashville. My head was spinning. It really was.
No doubt.
I sat in the clinic hall for 3 days and soaked it all up, and it evolved from there for me. Not only with my ABCA experience, but my coaching process really began there on a lot of levels. I learned so much from Dave about the game and the strategy. We had a JV team and a varsity team, so some guys asked me, when you have 50 players, how do you run practice? Well, I ran 2 practices, and so I can relate to everybody at this event, and this fellowship, and Mike Bell's standing there, one of my teammates, and guys that I coach against, Justin Hare, and every time you turn a corner, there's somebody that that it brings back a memory of this event from years past, from competition, and it's just a spectacular time. Get your juices going.
Gosh, okay. Let's go back to offense real quick, because there's guys out here, and I know they want some coaching content. And again, when you think about what you guys have done, UNCG's offense the last few years, man, just leading the nation in hitting a couple years, being in the top 5 all those years. I mean, just what's gone on there, making regional appearances. So, do you think at this point in your coaching career, and at least where you stand and what's really garnered success over the last few years, do you feel like you've created a system?
Sheets, I do.
Okay.
I felt like
you get where I'm going with that.
I do.
Like a blueprint.
Yeah, and You have to. Like,
Yep.
when I left Auburn to get my first head coaching job at Greensboro,
Yep.
like, there's parts of your system that are in place. And then when you get the first head coaching job, you now have to have your system for the program.
No doubt.
And for 14 years, you're developing that. You haven't implemented it.
Sure.
You're developing it. So I feel like my system offensively really started in 2006-07 at East Carolina.
Yep.
When you start to – you have that light switch that goes off at some point, and it did for me, and that's where I offensively I thought I started to separate strictly swing mechanics to the other components of hitting.
There it is.
And that's where I think that system started. And from 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12 at Auburn, like, the offensive stuff really took off. And then, obviously, this for me presenting was about offense.
Yeah.
But you have to have pitching philosophies. You have to have team defensive philosophies.
That's right.
You have to have base running philosophies. You have to have outfield concepts, infield concepts, and concepts for your catchers.
That's it.
So when you can create programs and developmental plans for each one of those areas, and the guys understand it and buy in, that's when the program overall can take off.
Wow.
And that ultimately is your responsibility as a head coach.
Oh, I love it. Let's go, deeper dive. I've a couple of guests. I've tried to almost turn these into Oprah couches and chairs and go a little deeper dive. But I think in full transparency, Link, if it's a young coach paying attention to this and, the success you've had is awesome. But we all know in a game of failure, you've had moments where trial and error, things just didn't go right. When you think back to those moments, I guess chronicle it for us. What are some, you talked about the transitional from thinking just purely mechanics to really going, no, it's a much bigger thing when we talk about offense. I think that's just like any young hitting coach. They see it very simply, but it's actually you got to take a much deeper dive, right?
You really do. And there's so many subtle components to
Yes.
your offense that are outside of the batter's box.
No doubt.
And it does start in the batter's box. It has to. Like, without base runners and
Yep.
power and
Yep.
acquiring as many bases as you can, you're not getting out of the gate, so
Right.
to speak. So it starts in the batter's box, but then through the years, no matter what level you're coaching at, doesn't matter whether
Right.
it's high school, it could be JV, it could be college, it could be the big leagues. There's certain teams and players that grab your attention,
Sure.
and you feel like when you're sitting there competing against them or even coaching them, they're doing something at a higher level than the masses.
Wow.
So pulling that out of maybe when we went to Cal State Fullerton in 2006 and Justin Turner and Blake Davis and some of these and Wes Romer, those guys, they were performing individually and as a team at an extremely high level. So I would walk away and evaluate and assess what I just competed against and what I saw.
That's it. Oh,
and I would
love
try
it.
to go back and in the right setting, ask one of their coaches, how do you do your bunting stuff? Why was your base running so good? And I started that early on, and I keep doing it to this day. There's programs that they have components to what they do that really that stands out as you watch. But you have to watch, you have to pay attention, you have to assess what's going on as you compete and as you play. And then I think that's allowed me to continue to evolve and build.
Yeah, it's staying in a constant state of self-awareness, but a constant state of almost challenging thought, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
We're responsible for having answers.
That's it.
And you have to deliver answers to your team.
Yep.
I had to deliver answers presenting yesterday.
No doubt.
Now, I've heard something today that makes you want to tweak and think about how you say things and why you say things. So you have to have answers, but you have to be open-minded enough to evaluate what you do and listen to other people that are having success in areas. Yeah, man.
Gosh, stay humble, kiddo. You know, seriously.
Because you don't. You have to provide answers and expertise.
Yep.
But you can't be so locked up that you aren't willing to adjust and adapt. And it may just help one player.
No doubt.
But how you say something to one guy may get that player over the hump on the mound, in the field. Yeah. So you have to have a big bag of tricks to go to. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I feel like we could take this and break a brand new podcast episode out of this conversation. I guess if there is a high school coach that's out there and a youth coach, we have a large demographic of our ABCA membership. 40% is from the high school ranks. There's another big chunk of that's from the youth ranks. So not everyone is going to have a great hitter at 18 years old, 22 years old that comes to them like you do. They may have the 5-year-old, the 8-year-old, the 12-year-old, if we're the 14-year-old. If we're thinking about that youth player, youth through high school, what are some things, if there's some young hitting coaches listening to this, that you just go, man, from where I sit, I would focus on X, Y, and Z? What are some things you would hit them with?
I talked about it a little bit yesterday, but very simple, basic stuff. Like get them in the batter's box in a position that allows them to cover the plate and just adjust in a little bit. So many young kids just simply don't know where to stand.
Sure.
And nothing will work if they're too far from the plate or way too close to the plate. It affects everything you do. Mm-hmm. And then find some simple checkpoints if you're just teaching hitting. And it's your responsibility as a coach to figure out what those checkpoints are that match your ability to deliver it. And it might be 3 things. It might be your basic stance, it might be your load position, and it might be where you are at contact. And try to get the kids to understand just simple little checkpoints that aren't over their head, but that they can practice. They're going to hit off the tee, and they're going to do some flips and stuff. And
they're going to hit on their own. We were just talking about that over here.
Yes, but they're probably not going to throw a lot of BP on their own. So train them how to use the tee and how to do the front toss properly so they can work on these very simple but fundamentally sound things that most great hitters do.
Sure.
But you can simplify it, and a 12-year-old can understand and learn some of the very basic, simple fundamentals.
That's it. Last question I got for you. I was thinking about the current climate that we're in, technology being prevalent, data analytics being prevalent. Our players, especially as they come to you, they have information at their fingertips at all times. They know more than maybe they did 10 years ago. How has that challenged you as a coach, and how have you answered the bell?
I just spent 2 hours in there digging into the technology. I have not.
I knew that. That's why I asked that question.
You saw me in there. I know I need to utilize it.
Yeah.
The fork in the road for me is I don't think the result-based numbers and some of the other stuff can drive the performance. I think the process and the mental approach to it will get you the analytics you need.
Sure.
That's what I feel responsible for as a coach.
Yeah.
Now, you can supplement what you do by obviously with the data that is so prevalent.
Sure.
So starting to mesh that into what we do is important. And as the guys that are younger now that are growing up in a data age come into your program, they expect it. And from a recruiting perspective, the guys coming in, they want to see that.
Yeah.
So we're going to use it.
I love it.
But it does not replace the process of how you produce the results that you want from an analytics standpoint.
Wow. It can only enhance your coaching.
Absolutely. You got to use it the right way.
That's right.
It's not a substitute. It's an addition. It's a supplement.
I love it. I'm going to let you get out here on this one. Last question for real. I swear we could do another whole episode.
Sheets, I'm here. The chair's
I know you
great.
are. If there are coaches listening to this link and going back to ABCA that they're saying, you know what, this sounds pretty cool. I know you're going to Nashville. It's a great city for us. But if you could speak directly to them, convince them to show up with us in Nashville.
The timing of any event can be tricky.
Yeah.
But this is something you need to set aside time for every year. It's a constant growth opportunity.
Absolutely.
It's a constant opportunity to have some fellowship and some time with guys that you've met over the years, and you're going to walk away having met new people.
Right.
I think it's important that you pencil in these 3 or 4 days. You may not be able to stay the whole time, but to come spend 2 nights, and Mike and I were talking about bringing your spouse from time to time is really neat, and let them have a little bit of a getaway before the next 6 months engulfs everything that you do. So it primes the pump, but it also gets you isolated with people that are going through what you go through, and I think you walk out of here feeling rejuvenated and refreshed and ready to go into battle.
Oh, goodness gracious. You're obviously, again, right down the street. I look forward to catching some games this spring. It always is fun to watch your teams play, and I get to go down to the bullpen, hang out with Jerry before the game starts. But
that's fun.
It's fun in itself.
Yeah.
But Link, just again, we appreciate what you're doing for baseball. Appreciate you being part of this association, and we look forward to watching you get out there this spring.
Thanks, Sheets.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Awesome.